Well, thanks everybody for coming out. Want to start by just saying congratulations to Coach G on win number 500 last week. What an awesome accomplishment for the women's soccer program and everything he's doing across the street. From our perspective, just start with our players of the game so you guys have that stuff. O-lineman was Trey Zune, had another really good week for us, starting to play really consistent football. I thought from a defensive line standpoint, Nick Skirton probably had his best game, played really well this game, played really well against Florida. Our offensive player of the week was Jade Walker. I thought he made some really big catches down the stretch to help us keep that thing the way we wanted it. Defensive player of the game was Shamar Turner. I thought that was his most disruptive night. Also really played with tremendous effort throughout the game, was proud of that from him. And then our special teams player of the game was Randy Bond, obviously stepping up and making 4 field goals was a great bounce back game for him. Going back and reviewing the game, it's not a whole lot different than what we talked about after the game. I think I'm proud of how we played to win. Winning a football game when you're not playing your best is something that doesn't always happen, and we were able to do that. But I think every aspect of the game, we were just very choppy. Offensively, we scored on 6 of 9 possessions, but 4 of those scores were field goals, and 3 times we didn't score, we went 3 and out. Then we came out with a chance to ice the game and we fumble, right? And so if you look at it from a big picture standpoint, it's just choppy all over the place, and so a lot of areas to get better there. Defensively, I thought we started well. We knew they were going to throw a lot of stuff at us coming off of a bye week. I thought we handled it well in the beginning of the game, and going in at halftime against a team that had scored a lot of points, only having 3. Then we came out and played a horrendous third quarter, allowed them to get back in the game, get an awful lot of momentum, and we continue to have problems with giving up explosive touchdowns. They're coming differently now. This one was a busted coverage and a reverse, so we got the run issues, I think, sorted out, and now they're popping up in different areas, and so we've got to continue to work to improve that. And then was proud of the defense for, after those 2 possessions, stepping up. At the point at which that punt gets blocked and the defense has given up 2 straight touchdowns, for them to go out the way they did, get the 3 and out, force the field goal, get the field goal missed, there was a positive in that as well. And then I thought special teams was very similar. Randy had a great night kicking. I think Tyler White's been awesome this year punting the football. They attempted 2 onside kicks. The one, I think, even if it had stayed in bounds, we'd have been fine on. And then Donovan Green makes the big one at the end to ice the game. But we gave up a block punt and we kicked the ball out of bounds again, right? And so it just was one of those days. There wasn't all negative, but there certainly were too many negatives and things that we got to work on and get fixed as we move forward. And so that's kind of where we are coming out. As we turn our attention to Arkansas, 3-1 football team, 1-0 in the SEC, very similar to us, everything that they want in front of them. Offensively, obviously very familiar with offensive coordinator Bobby Petrino, and right now they're a top 10 total offense in the country. They're second and third down efficiency nationally, and so he's got those guys playing at a really high level. They went out in the transfer portal and got a really good quarterback who's a dual threat kid, can throw the ball around really well. He's got an extremely big arm that jumps off the tape and can do a lot of things with his feet as well. Running back Jaquindon Jackson, who I remember from when I was here as a defensive coordinator leading Duncanville as their quarterback, big physical running back, has been extremely productive this year for them. They've got an elite wide receiver core in Andrew Armstrong and Isaiah Santenga. Both of those guys are dangerous. Like always, Arkansas has a lot of big dual threat tight ends that can block and get out and catch the football. They've got an experienced offensive line, and Sam Pittman, their head coach, I got a lot of respect for him. Not only the job he does as a head coach and the kind of coach he is, but he's also an offensive line background. And so even going back as a defensive coordinator, just this offensive line is always extremely well coached and does a great job. And then defensively, on the defensive line, they bring back both defensive tackles, 2 experienced players, big physical guys at the point of attack. Landon Jackson at defensive end is another kid that feels like he's played an awful lot of football in the SEC. Remember his recruitment, and he certainly has blossomed into an elite player. I thought they did a really good job in the transfer portal at the linebacker position. Xavier Story stands out, a kid who transferred in from Georgia, another high-profile recruit who's doing a really good job for them at the linebacker position. position, and in the secondary, it's another good mix, which just seems to be what everybody is. A couple returning starters, a couple transfers, kind of blending it all together and playing good football. And so it's going to be a big challenge for us. It's a quasi-home road game, right, which is always cool. It's the last year that we're going to play the Southwest Classic at AT&T Stadium. So I told our guys this morning in kind of a joking manner, if you're a Cowboys fan, it's the last chance you get to go up there and play a game in Cowboy Stadium. And if you're not a Cowboys fan, it's the last chance you go up to get to beat Jerry Jones's team in Cowboy Stadium, right? And so, it works both ways, whether you like the Cowboys or not. And so we're excited for the opportunity, excited to go up there and put our best brand of football on display. And so from there, I'll open it up to questions.
Down front right, Brent, and then Travis.
You talked after the game and again now on so many things to work on. What would you say are maybe number one and number two on the priority list going into the heart of SEC play?
Yeah, it's not. If it was that easy, it would probably already have been fixed. It's still just it all boils down to consistency, right? And that's a coach speak answer to some degree, but I don't think there's the same glaring issue that shows up every single week, right? And so to that degree, I think there's progress, and we're showing progress, and we are improving. But there are holes that continue to show up in different areas. And so to me, I think it's just the consistent focus to do what we're supposed to do every snap, and it's at every level, right? And so part of that, to some degree, is expected with the new staff and new scheme and all that stuff. But part of that's got to be behind us now.
I think a lot of us have written you need playmaker receivers, guys who can create separation. What does Moose Muhammad, he's a guy we've asked about over the years, obviously before you got here, need to do to be on the field more?
Yeah, no different than the last time we talked about Moose. He's got to be consistent, and that's what we're looking for from him, consistency.
Down front right, Travis.
I know moving forward that makes the financial sense to move the games back to the home stadiums, but from a footballing sense, is there something that will be missed by not having the neutral site game at AT&T?
Oh, you know me. We'll play wherever we got to play. I don't have a strong opinion on that. It's been a cool game. Obviously, the opportunity to go up there and play this game, it's always a cool environment when you have the split field fans. But I also understand the benefit of getting a fourth home game and for both sides. And so it's like a lot of things. There's positives on both ends of it, and whatever the big people decide is what we'll do.
And correct me if I'm wrong, I think you were around when Theo was getting recruited, probably talking about. What do you remember about the unique recruiting of a guy from Sweden, and then how he's adapted to not only life here but football here too?
Yeah, I remember him just showing up at a camp and to some degree catching my eye as I was looking at defensive players, and he was running routes and doing some of those things, and certainly jumped out from an athleticism standpoint. Obviously wasn't here the first 2 years when he was getting his feet underneath him and learning how to play football at the level required to play in this conference. And I think since we've been here, I think we've just noticed a kid who's really committed to working every day. He's obviously really talented. He's athletic. He can run routes. He can create separation. He's also physical at the point of attack. And so, I think he's just continued to grow every single week, every single game, and has been a factor for us big time the last 2 weeks.
Second row on the left, Alex.
You mentioned how good Arkansas has been on offense this season so far. Just what are some of the characteristics and things you see from Bobby Petrino's offense in particular that just gives teams a hard time against them?
Yeah, I think, obviously he's been offensive coordinator for a really long time. I went against him back in the ACC when he was at Louisville and I was at Wake. And I think he's really sound in what he does. He's got a really good plan for how they want to run the football. He's got a really good plan for how they want to create shot plays down the field. They do a good job creating different looks, and he's a really good play caller. And so, I think he's been really successful for a long time as an offensive coordinator, and so it just has kind of continued.
Second row on the right, David, and then Ola.
Mike, can you speak a little bit to the offensive line, how they've weathered the storm of guys in and out? Obviously, Mark gets hurt. TJ gets hurt last game. Just Chase goes down for a little bit. Just a little bit how they've weathered the storm.
Yeah, I think that's, we talked about that in camp. Everyone kept asking about, cohesion and getting the right five together. And I think from our perspective, it was just a different thought process. It was more preparation for this, which always seems to be the inevitable way that offensive football plays out and offensive line plays out. It's a tough position. It's a physical position. And so I think we played a lot of different groups together through spring ball, through summer practices, through fall camp, and got a lot of guys, a lot of different reps at different spots, which I think when you get into these moments now, and TJ probably being the biggest example, TJ's primarily a guard, but we had to get him enough reps at center through the spring, through the summer, because you never know, and all of a sudden he comes in as your third center, and the next thing you know, he's starting your first SEC, or not starting, but he's in 3 plays into your first SEC game, and you got to win on the road, right? And so I just think the versatility we've tried to create within that group to know what the next move would look like and spend enough time practicing what the next move would look like, I think helps that cohesion when those things happen.
What are some areas on the film where Marcel's grown, maybe from the McNeese game to now, to things that we may not notice?
Yeah, I think the one thing I want to say I just think is so ironic, if you look at his stat line between the 2 games, they're almost identical. I think the difference in total yards between the Florida game and the Bowling Green game was 1 yard. And so I think, it's funny what expectations do, and it's funny what people think when they just, they hear Bowling Green, so they anticipate a certain type of thing because of it. And so I think he's still, he's got a big arm. He's got tremendous athleticism. I still think there's some progressions, reads, checks that he's still working through. I think those things have made tremendous strides from spring ball through fall camp, through playing against McNeese, Florida last week, the multiplicity of defense and learning how to maneuver through all of that. And I just think he's a young quarterback who gets better every time he takes snaps under center.
Olin is checking with you. There you go. Thanks. Yes.
Yeah, Mike, when you're going against a quarterback with the running ability of Taylen Green, when you designate his spy, is it as simple as finding the fastest guy that can keep up with him, or what all goes into a strategy of designating a guy, for a game like that to spy?
Yeah, that's always an interesting question, because that's a word that I think general fans have used, like, oh, you just spy the quarterback, and like it's way more complicated than that, because within the, I don't mean that because of the question, but like when you look at, okay, we're running an 11-man defense. It takes 11 people to fit the run. They're going to call a play. They may run the football. We can't just say like, oh, you spy the quarterback, right? And so I think what you try to do first and second down within each of your coverage structures, each of your defenses, is you're trying to identify as the play goes out who kind of becomes the guy paying attention to him if he does pull the ball down. So I don't know that it's specific to this guy spies him. It's kind of as the play unfolds, as the route concept develops, as the coverage develops, who winds up in that spot that has to make sure he keeps secondary eyes on him. I think we're a little bit fortunate because we had some preparation with this with Notre Dame. I think we faced a dual threat quarterback against Notre Dame that was a very similar type mindset in terms of how you had to go about this, and so that helps. But still, they present different challenges. So we got to make sure we count for him.
Coach, back behind the lights, Tyler.
Yeah. Mike, I mean, you've been in a few of these, but it seems like you look at the history of A&M Arkansas, especially when it's been at AT&T Stadium. They've just come down to the wire. Everyone's been very close. Kind of some crazy finishes. Why do you feel like that seems to be consistent through this series?
Yeah, I think the environment plays a role. I think kids play their best football on that stage. I think everybody gets excited for playing in that stadium. Obviously, this game means a lot to both teams, and we always seem to get their best. We always try to give them our best, and I think when 2 teams do that, I think you wind up with a lot of really close, entertaining football games. Obviously not as a coach. I didn't remember any of them to be very entertaining when I was here. They were all way too close for my liking. But from the fans' perspective, they're entertaining games, and certainly expect this to be another one.
Second row on the right, Carter.
Mike, I'm wondering sort of the approach with the chess match of teams as they see more tape of Reed, just maybe adjusting how they defend them, and if you guys foresee teams doing different things, or if you think that they have enough to kind of know what he does well or not.
Yeah, I think it's hard. It's hard in the college game to manipulate the defense that much. I think everybody kind of sets their structure to say, okay, hey, this is a dual threat quarterback that they feature in the quarterback run game. We got to have a plan. This is kind of our plan. I don't know that it's. I don't know that we get enough time with our kids like they do in the NFL to like specifically say, okay, hey, this is the quarterback and these are the 11 new defenses we want to run this week, And so I think obviously the tape shows that he's extremely athletic with his feet. I think people are going to start treating him like a dual threat quarterback. I think that's obviously already happened. I think as that happens, that'll create different looks. I think you can somewhat predict and project what people will do when they see a dual threat quarterback like that. But I don't know that it quite manipulates to the level of like, okay, hey, this is the Marcel Reed specific plan. I think the film is out with kind of who he is, what he's all about. And I think it started last week and I think it'll continue moving forward for sure.
Coach, back right, Chip.
Mike, if I could follow up on Taylen Green, he probably hasn't been as consistent as they would have liked him to be, but he could look bad for a couple of series and then get loose 40 yards or throw the ball 60 yards downfield like he did against Auburn. How disciplined do your guys have to stay when a guy is like that?
Yeah, I think when a player has the ability to make explosive plays, it certainly enhances your focus level play to play because regardless of down and distance, area of the field, situation, he has the ability to make an explosive play either with his arm or with his feet, right? And that type of explosiveness creates a higher level of focus within your defense because you can't make mistakes. You make one mistake and it's 7 points, and so obviously that's usually a focus for you as a defense. But I think when you have a player like this who's as explosive as he is, it probably just enhances the risk.
If I could follow up, will Conner be another game time decision after you see him this week?
Yeah, he'll be a game time decision.
Go front left, Cease.
Mike, I wonder when you guys self-critique your play calling the last couple games when you've settled for field goals, do you feel the problems was more in the early downs or the third downs, or when you looked at that?
Probably a little bit of all of it. I think, I think in this game, probably more early downs got us off schedule, got us behind the chains. It was really the one was we got down there, we took 2 shots and didn't get in. That was the one. The other 3, I think we got ourselves into a 2nd and 8 or higher in all 3 of those instances, if I'm remembering correctly. And so I think it's just hard when you get off schedule down inside the red zone. And again, that's where it's the consistency that we're striving for. Like the Florida game, we were really good in the red zone on offense. We were really bad in the red zone on defense. The Bowling Green game, we were really good in the red zone on defense. We were really bad in the red zone on offense, right? So we have the ability to do it. What we're lacking right now is the consistency to do it every week and every play and every game and every opportunity. And I think it's showing itself in a lot of different ways. And I think certainly some of that ownership is on us as coaches. We can do things to put us in better position to create better opportunities to be more consistent. And so this isn't me standing on a podium saying we're doing it perfect as coaches and they've got to do it better. It's across the board, just our operation, our organization. We have to be more consistent with what we're doing.
Down front, Brent, you'll wrap us up.
The difference in scoring in the first and second halves for y'all has been marked. Is there anything you can put your finger on with that in terms of, really outscoring opponents in the first half and not so much in the second?
Yeah, I think it's been a little bit more just defensively. I think offensively, I feel like we've been a little bit more balanced. We've obviously scored on the first drive in each game, which has been good, but I think we've had pretty balanced halves offensively, if I'm not mistaken. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it feels that way. Defensively, I think it's been lopsided, and I think it's just been, again, it just goes back to, I don't want to keep making this same statement, but the same play gets run in the first half and we stop it. The same play gets run in the second half and we don't communicate the coverage check the right way, and all of a sudden the tight end's running down the field all by himself, right? And it's literally the same exact play and we just didn't communicate it properly, and that's the result of it. And so, I think it's I don't feel like you look at it always inter first, right? And are we doing things the right way? Are we making the right adjustments? Are we looking at things the right way? Are we missing things? But really what has happened has been very similar play types against very similar looks that we were able to do it the way we were supposed to, and then just for some reason don't in the second half. And now all of a sudden it's been a lot of explosive touchdowns, right? It's been, 4, I don't know if there was one in the Florida game, but it was 4 explosive touchdowns in the first game and the last game in the second half, right? And that is usually the result of a breakdown, not necessarily schematic adjustments.
And do you have a favorite memory or start memory of A&M versus Arkansas in Jerry World?
Oh, gosh. I don't know that I have a favorite memory. I felt like every one of those games was down to the wire. I think, if I remember right, my first one, they kind of came back on us, and Dono Wilson made a heck of a pick in the fourth quarter to ice it and give us the win. And I just remember him ranging across the field. And when he came down with it, it was like, oh, thank God. I just remember that feeling. But no, I mean, they've been very competitive games, and they've had a lot of talented players. So have we. And it's been fun. I mean, it's been fun games up there for sure, certainly for the fans. And so go up there and give them one more.
All right, Coach, thanks for your time.
Thanks, guys.
Players.
Appreciate you.